Bonne année. It's Happy New Year time here, Professor Sky. And I'm just making this video. This is going to be the last video from my class on Haiti, the most important country in the world. That's not to say I won't make any more videos about Haiti. I have a whole video I'm working on about rappers of the Haitian diaspora. Another video I'm working on about the Haitian soccer team in the World Cup. So there will be more. But as far as things that actually come from the class that I have just taught, this is the final class, and it's a celebratory class because listen, when I teach this, I teach all about, the misery, the TPS, the earthquakes and the gangs and the slavery and all these terrible things. But I don't want that to have you walk away from this class with the impression that like everything is just miserable and sad. Like Haiti is a very famously joyous and color-filled place filled with culture, music, noise, all of the wonderful things you'd expect from a place. It's not all just slow motion of people in misery. So I want to end the whole class with this double lesson. It's a lesson on a movie and it's a lesson on some food. So I'm going to start off by talking to you about the best movie that you have definitely never seen, unless you're Haitian. If you are of Haitian descent or if you are Haitian, you have seen I Love You, Anne. Of course you have. Everyone has seen this movie. If you are not, you've probably not heard of it. It's impossible to find at this point. I am going to be spoiling the movie for you, although it is not a movie very heavy on plot. But I'm going to be talking about why it's one of the great movies you've never seen, truly. Like what makes it such a great film. And I'm even going to do the little funny thing of tying it together to my specialty of 17th century French theater, because I think it fits into that mindset. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to talk to you about a soup that if you are Haitian, you are currently eating Soupe Joumou right now. You ate it for breakfast, you ate it for lunch, you're going to eat it for dinner, and you're going to eat it the day after that. I'm going to talk to you about my wife when she made Soupe Joumou for my class. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history, and I will share the recipe that we used. Okay? So let's get to today's class by talking about this. I'm not recording, am I? Oh, I am recording. Happy New Year, everybody. I didn't know I actually hit record. I did. Good, it's recording. So let's get to this movie. Okay, let's talk about this film and why it is such an important movie to understand and a deeper meaning of it. All right, let's go share here, share. Continue to share. Great. This is my favorite scene from the movie. We will get to it. And let's talk about it. Okay? Students and friends, I am Professor Sky. My name is perhaps known to you. I've undertaken to teach about Haiti. I want curiosity and a thirst for complex understanding to reign in this class. I am working to help that happen. Unite yourselves, students, and learn with me for the same cause. So we're going to be talking about this movie. I Love You, Anne. As you can tell, it was over a month ago that I taught this class. I did upload the entire movie to this channel. It took me hours and hours and hours to I figured out some way to rip it and I uploaded it. And unfortunately, it's been taken down off the internet. There is a website. I'll include a link to a website of where you can watch this movie. It costs $2.50. It's totally worth it. It's a great movie. But for a brief period of time, I was able to make the movie public. Not quite legally, but I was able to do it. So why did I have my students watch this movie? Again, this is a class. It's only 15 weeks. It's only 45 classes. And 2 of those classes at least are taken up with, exams and stuff like that. So why would I include this goofy romantic comedy in this course? Well, because again, I want to emphasize the humanity of Haiti, not just the misery, not just the pain. And that's what it was about. It was about levity and humanity. It's not good if you only present a place by the ways that it's miserable. The funny thing is, it's New Year's Eve when I'm recording this, and my wife is from Serbia, and this is the biggest holiday in Serbia. So it's very funny because, I'm an American. I'm a Christian American, so, Christmas was a couple days ago. That was the biggest day on our calendar. Meanwhile, my wife is celebrating tonight, and all my Haitian viewers and friends are celebrating tomorrow. This is the levity and the humanity that comes through. How many cinemas are there in Haiti? Because the question you might ask yourself, And my students asked is, like, why does it look like that? This movie looks really amateur. It looks like it was just made on a couple camcorders. And this is where it's important to remember. I am going to be doing this video about the Haitian soccer team that don't even have a place where they can play. They don't even have a field where they can practice. And yet they made it to the World Cup. Are you kidding me? So why have you not seen many movies from Haiti? Well, probably because they do not have the infrastructure. They've either been denied the infrastructure, or they've not had the financial ease to create some form of infrastructure for cinema in Haiti. And just as an example, a brief search on the internet finds this is how many cinemas there are in Haiti. There is 4 screens there. Five total screens for movies in Haiti. Okay? Now, that's not true of I Love You, Anne, which came out in the early 2000s. Okay, so at this point, Haiti was relatively in a stronger economic position than they are now, certainly before the earthquake. It's extremely low budget. It is extremely well acted. This is a thing I want to emphasize, is that what can you do if you don't have the money for special effects, if you don't have the money for proper sound design, if you don't have the money for the best cameras? Well, you better make sure that the acting is good. And what makes this movie so spectacular is how well acted it is for a movie that looks so cheap, because it had to be so cheap because there wasn't any money to make it. And it's very well scripted. It's very well made. It's very consciously constructed and made. Here's the details from IMDb. The person who made such a great movie on such a small budget was Richard Senecal, and the writers there, Antonio Cherami and Silvio Tessier. So that's who was able to make such a great movie out of so little. And you see it's starring someone named Daniel Fils-Aimé, who we will talk about quite a bit because this is a mega superstar in Haiti. So each one of these characters ends up being symbolic. And when I ask my students, I ask them to tell me, what do they all represent? What does Anne represent? What does Pay Demeron? What does Tonton Bichard represent? Don Quedo? And so I'm going to be taking you through that as I discuss this movie with you. What I'm going to do now. So listen, I started off this class, and in the early days, when you talk about like, why is Haiti the way that it is, it's really the fault. I mean, it's 17th century France. The period of time, so I studied at the University of California, Santa Barbara, under a man named Ronald Tobin, a truly great academic, great thesis advisor, and he taught me about 17th century philosophy and theater, and the theater is wonderful. The poetry is great, the philosophy is great, but at the same time that Molière was writing his plays and was being performed in front of Louis XIV, the very same time Louis XIV and his ministers like Mazarin were putting, like Colbert, excuse me, his ministers like Colbert were putting the transatlantic slave trade into functionality. If you go back to class number 3, I believe that's where I discussed the Black Code. So the whole time that we have this flourishing of French culture, we also have the worst parts of humanity instituting chattel slavery. So what I'm going to do is something a little bit provocative. I looked at this movie, I Love You, Anne, and I thought about it, and yes, it is a romantic comedy, and it's made in 2003, and it's very modern and all of that. They don't speak in prose or whatever. But it actually is very close to a 17th century French comedy. The characters, the way that it goes, the way that it's structured, I believe the best way to think of I Love You, Anne by Richard Senecal is by imagining it as a Haitian version of a 17th century French comedy. Allow me to explain. There are certain rules of 17th century classical French comedy, some of which are shared by I Love You, Anne, some are not. 5 acts, I would argue, and I will show, I believe this fits into the 5-act structure. Searching for something called verisimilitude, which means lifelikeness. I believe this does. I believe the characters in this play act in not particularly dramatic or over-exaggerated ways. I believe most of the characters behave in a way that is very lifelike. In a similar way, you have to have a certain amount of decorum. This movie is not crass. It is not filled with drugs and sex. It is a proper movie that can be shown to anybody. Here's where things fall off with my thesis, the unities of place, time, and action. Classical theater in general is supposed to take place in one location. This does not. It takes place in many places all around Dalmas and other parts of Haiti, of Port-au-Prince. It's supposed to be unified in time, which means it's supposed to take place within 24 hours. This doesn't quite take place in 24 hours, but it's not a very long period of time. It's all within a week or so of happening. So in that way, I think it does basically adhere to that rule of French comedy. And then finally, unity of action, where only one real thing happens. I think you could say this basically fits into that as well. Perhaps the most important thing is that the characters in 17th century French classical comedy, like Molière is the best example, is their bourgeois and working class families. This new kind of person who did not exist in the past, who was starting to come into existence partially because of the slave trade. If the bourgeoisie did not make so much money off of the international slave trade, they never would have had the confidence and power to realize that they needed more autonomy and overthrow the French government, overthrow the monarchy to have the French Revolution. The French Revolution, which in and of itself would go on to inspire the Haitian Revolution. It's all a big circle here. But this bourgeois, these working class families are the source of these plays. And that's what this is. This is not the story of the richest people in Haiti, nor is it the story of the poorest people in Haiti. It's part of the reason I had one of my students to watch it. Like, here's just some people, just some people who have enough money to live and are fine and live a life and are just like you or me. It's not as alien as it often seems, you know, when we're studying gangs and earthquakes and cholera and all these things. What I think in particular this does is it follows the Molière model. Take, for example, the following plays. Tartuffe, Bourgeois gentilhomme, Malade imaginaire, Le misanthrope. I think I said that one twice. The Miser, okay. What do I mean? Well, the main way that these plays work is they follow a kind of format. First, you have a father who is driven by a monomania, which means a singular desire. And he puts his family's well-being at risk by his monomaniacal desire. His single-minded obsession threatens his family, thereby abdicating his role as father. My thesis was about this. I wrote a 150-page thesis about this idea, especially in Molière, about the ways that fathers endanger their families through their monomania. Tartuffe, with his desire to be the father in Tartuffe, the desire to be more pious, the father in Bourgeois gentilhomme, the desire to overcome his class, Malade imaginaire, father obsessed with his own sickness, Misanthrope, father is obsessed with hating humanity, and the Miser, a father who's obsessed with money. This monomaniacal father is both kind of the center of these plays, but is also an antagonist. Like, not really. His monomania is the threat. That's the thing that needs to be defeated. He has to either be corrected or exiled. That's what happens in all of these plays. Now, fortunately, he has a friend who is a reasoner. He is somebody where the father will go off and just talk about, I need this and I need that and I don't do that. And the reasoner is his friend who tells him to calm down and helps to reassure society that this one particular poisonous figure will not be overtaken by his monomania. The monomania represents an obstacle to the marriage of the young couple. The marriage of the young couple is the most important thing. It's a thing which young people don't understand. You don't understand until you're older. But like most human creation is dedicated to convincing young people to get married and have kids and pay taxes. Like, that's how society keeps working. Get married, have kids, pay taxes. Get married, have kids, pay taxes. I did my part. Okay, I got 4 kids, right? I'm paying lots of taxes. I live in New York State. But like, that's the idea. So it's not just that this father represents a threat to his individual family, but by presenting a threat to the happiness of this young couple, where he is the father usually of the daughter, where he prevents a happy, proper marriage, in so doing, he threatens societal continuity and he threatens society as a whole. That's the purpose of comedy in Molière. What ends up happening is that this monomaniac prefers a villain for his daughter. As opposed to the proper lover, he prefers the villain. So Tartuffe is the best example, where he tries to marry his daughter off to this middle-aged, disgusting, fake religious man, instead of marrying her off to the young, proper man who is suiting her, who is pursuing her. Eventually, the father is defeated so that young love can flourish, and yes, society itself will continue. All of these things fit within the 5-act structure. And if you've seen I Love You, Anne, maybe you see where I'm going. The thing about classical plays is what makes them classical is these elements, the verisimilitude, the unity of action, all these things. But there's a lot of reason, a lot of the ideas that everything sort of makes sense. Everything is a reasonable, clear line. There is form, there is structure. We are not in the postmodern age where things are flying all over the place and everything is questioning. No, there's a specific structure. And this is the structure of a 5-act play, which I believe is the structure that is followed in I Love You, Anne. You have the exposition, where you learn who the characters are, what the problem is. That's what it is. Then you have the rising action, then you have the climax, then you have the falling action, then you have the resolution. You can see it in this way if you want. This is the way that every single one of those plays goes, and this is, I argue, the way that I Love You, Anne from 2003 from Haiti also behaves. Sorry, it's a winter here. It's what is anyone here watching in Haiti? This is what it looks like out my backyard. So we got lots of snow here. It's I don't know, what is winter like in Haiti? I wonder. Tell you what, eating some good soup. So Act 1, the movie opens up with the young lovers meeting in a CD store, a music store. We have Don Cato to the left, who is a popular rap/reggae musician in Haiti. He was back then a member of a group called Brothers Posse. He is still a popular musician. And to the right, we have Anne. Now, the thing to understand is that Anne is like the most beautiful woman in the world. So whatever you think of how she looks, the way her role in this movie is to be the most desirable, blindingly beautiful, young, vibrant, intelligent, funny, personable, charismatic person in the whole world. That's her role, that everyone around her is just absolutely ensorcered by her. That's a Franklicism. So here's the exposition. The thing that's hard to understand after we meet these young lovers is the problem. If you are from the Caribbean, you probably know what the problem. Sorry, I have to pause the recording here because my throat really hurts. 1 second. It might be hard for you to understand how important it is if somebody from the Caribbean has dreadlocks. It is not just a fashion sense. It is not just a haircut. It is associating oneself with the Rastafarian movement. Rastafari is a very fringe religion that originated in Jamaica. Bob Marley was its most famous adherent. But people who are Rastas are legitimately prejudiced against. They are the victims of many stereotypes and a lot of social pressure against them to conform, to cut off their hair. Nobody wants their daughter to marry a Rastafari because you know that they deal drugs and that they're criminals and all these kinds of stereotypes that exist. So that's the central problem. This handsome singer, the problem is that his hair is in like very small dreads. And I told my students, imagine for your purposes that it's a kid with face tattoos covering their face and lots of piercings and green hair. Like, it's that level of like, oh my God, this person is absolutely at the fringes of society by the way that they get dressed. And that's hard to explain. That was hard for my American students because, you know, I have a lot of students. I have a lot of students who are of African descent, and you know, a lot of the guys have hair just like this. And it certainly isn't like, oh, I'm a member of a religion. It's just like a cool way to wear your hair, right? Just a little note here. One of the scenes early on is Anne receiving money from her mother in Haiti, just as a reminder, as we are sadly approaching the moment where TPS is being restricted from Haitians. This is how much of the GDP of Haiti comes from remittances, which is to say Haitian workers sending money back to Haiti. It might be a catastrophe for the country, another catastrophe for the country if this money dries up. Anyways, just a small little detail there. And then we meet Tonton Bichat, the monomaniacal father, played by Daniel Fils-Aimé. This actor, at this point, was, I think, in his 20s. He's still playing the same character. You can go on YouTube and watch Tonton Bichat videos. He's still hilarious. He is one of the most famous comedians. He is Robin Williams. He is Jamel. He is Kevin Hart. He is whatever you can possibly imagine. One of the biggest superstars in Haiti. And he is playing this character of Anne's father, wearing old makeup. And he is monomaniacal. He is obsessed. What is he obsessed with? He is obsessed with being taken seriously, of having a proper daughter and being thought of as a good man. He is monomaniacally obsessed with respectability. He needs to be respected and cared for. That is the thing that drives him more than anything else. Okay? That's his obsession. Societal acceptance and normative behavior. Also, they're listening to some rap music, and he calls it rack. It's a very funny scene. And then we meet this person. I apologize for this terrible pause. Another symbolic figure. So we have the monomaniacal father who is going to get in the way of the young lovers. He's going to get in between Don Cato, the singer, and Anne, the star of the movie. He is going to be obsessed with keeping them apart and being against them because he is a Rasta and he is a musician and he's not a serious man who's on his way to being a good corrupt official in society. On the other side, you have Tonton Bichat, who is the reasoner. He is Pay Demeron. Sorry, his name is Pay Demeron, and he is the reasoner to Bichat. He is the person who helps to explain the way things are. He's been to America. He's been all over the Caribbean. He has a lot of life experience, and he's able to see the qualities of Don Cato that Tonton Bichat cannot. There's just a wild scene here where they go to a supermarket, and I just thought it'd be fun for my students to see that they're getting only craft products. It's like, looks like the worst, crappiest food you could possibly imagine. And then we meet the villains, the obstacles, these two characters. We have Jude, who is the other suitor, and his friend, the police officer, who are going to serve as the people who are going to get in the way and try to take over and be the potential marriage for Anne. We have a nice little love scene where they get to know each other better. We're still in the beginning exposition. We have these two characters talking to each other. Jude is a very villainous figure, and I have had students who have told me that the lightness of his skin is supposed to be an indicator of societal power and create a certain amount of mistrust on the part of the people watching. I am whiter than the snow outside my window, so I'm not going to be the one to talk to you about colorism in the Caribbean. But that is the kind of role that he plays. This person, Jude, is a very rich man. He owns a business. He uses his power. He abuses his power. And I believe the color of his skin is supposed to play a part of that. At least I've been told that by my students who are Haitian. If I am wrong, please tell me in the comments. If I am right, please tell me in the comments. But he is just the worst. He's always hiring young women and sleeping with them and then firing them. We had this moment where the police officer and Jude help Pay Demeron, the reasoner, bring home Anne, because Anne was not supposed to go to this party, except Pay Demeron said he would drive her. And we have this scene where Jude tries to seduce her. And she does not having it. She does not like this guy at all. She is not like, oh, I kind of like him. He's kind of cute. He's got a job. She is just like, why are you looking at me like that? You need something? It's awesome. You know, we had this whole conversation where Jude says, I hope you know that if you had to choose between me and that Rasta, you'd have to choose me. Like he knows, Jude knows that he has all this societal power. Bisha is super mad at Pay Demeron because they arrived late. And then we have this little conversation. Now, I've told you this movie is like a play. It's really a lot like a play because, I mean, Anne and Don Cato don't really know each other that well. What's interesting is there's 3 I love yous in this movie. 3 separate I love yous in 3 different languages. Interesting. The first I love you is in English. It is a phone call between Anne and Don Cato. I love you, Anne. We see his life with his mother. We can see that he's not some dirty, nasty Rasta who's smoking weed and all that. He's writing a song about how much he loves Anne. He's talking to his mom. He's very kind of humanized. Then we get to the rising action. Things start to happen. We see Tonton Bisha in his house. I kind of raised the idea of how much protection he needs from the outside world with this gate. He has this beautiful speech where he talks to his daughter about how he's had to be a mother and a father because his wife went to America to make money. I'm working hard at the store when your mother sends the Western Union. We see the financial reality. And the most insane thing is they have a maid. They have a servant. So it's just a reminder to my students, you know, that like this is a middle-class family and there's so little money in Haiti that even people who are lower or who are middle class might have servants because the cost of having a servant is much less in societies that have less money. And Bisha does not treat his maid very well. And then we have this moment where Anne is waiting for Don Cato. He's waiting for her, and this is what gives Jude the in, because he's able to say, you're not going to see him. He's somewhere out smoking weed. I'll help you out. You should be with me. You should be with me because I'm a boss. Don't you know who I am? I'm a big boss, honey. With me, you'll never suffer because he owns a travel agency business. He owns a business. He's a real societal, powerful man. And she doesn't care. She goes and she sneaks around and she sees Don Cato at the house. Now she's doing this in secret because she knows that if her father sees what this guy looks like, then it's completely over. Here, he says, I love you, Anne, but in Haitian Creole. Mwen men ou. So that's the second time that he says it. He says it in person. Then the father comes back. Oh my God, this is the rising action. I'm telling you, he chases him down the street with a stick. And of course, Jude is right outside, and Jude tries to kill him. Jude tries to take the gun from Wesley, his cop friend, tries to take the gun and shoot him. That's how insistent he is. He needs to remove his rival. At this point, things are looking pretty bleak because, of course, the monomaniacal father would love to have his daughter marry a respectable businessman who owns a travel agency. Who has a friend who's a police officer. That's completely respectable. Not some musician who makes rock music and has dreadlocks. Pay Demeron takes home Don Cato, and we start to see there's an alliance between them because the reasoner sees that this is the right match for Anne. We have these scenes of these reasoners where we have Jude talking to Wesley saying, you have to support me as I do all this. It's like what Bush said, if you're not with me, then you're against me, just the insanity of Jude. And at the same time, we have Pay Demeron talking to Don Cato, explaining how Bichat won't change his ways. We have a whole scene where Pay Demeron, the reasoner, is trying to talk to the monomaniac, but he explains the monomaniac calls him a vagabond, somebody who doesn't work. And if we go back to the whole history of this class, so much of this class has been about Haitians, whether or not they have the right to make a living in a way that is in accordance with what they want, not just what society wants, but can Haitians work for themselves and live a life of meaning for themselves without being forced into a sugar field or onto a banana plantation? That's been part of the story of this class, the way that labor is perceived of in Haiti. And we see the biggest insult to him is not even that he's a Rasta, it's that he's a vagabond, that he doesn't work hard enough. These are expectations that he has. The way he looks, can't you tell he is idle? It is idleness that would be his biggest flaw. So now you're judging people from the outside, Pay Demeron always being the reasoner. He thinks the problem is the short skirts, that she's just too pretty, asking how is your mother? And here we go. He says, I think you should be with Jude. You should be with the guy who calls himself the big boss. And we have this pleading scene. And this is, the whole time, this movie is filled with comedy. The main comedy is just how funny Tonton Bichat is and how little he understands. But at the same time, it's a very emotionally well-made movie where you really feel the pain that Anne has. You really feel the love and care that her father has, that this inability to understand, like there's no real villains in this conversation. It's just this misunderstanding and this desire for respectability. Listening to some compas music instead of rock music, just nice for my students. Then there's the ruse. They say they broke into the store. Do you want me to go with you? And this is what Anne uses to go out. And she throws the maid under the bus and says, I don't care what you tell my father. So they go off to Fort Jacques, which is a very important location outside of Port-au-Prince. And they go there to just have a nice party. And Tonton Bichat says, I'm going after the gangster in the fortress. We see as Anne goes up to this fort, we see the streets, we see the way people live, and then we see Tonton Bichat comedically going after bow-leggedly on a bicycle. He hops on the back of a truck. And we have the third, I love you, which is in French, je t'aime. Now, I'm not going to do a whole linguistic breakdown, but it is important that we have these three languages. They all represent different sides of Haiti, different sides of Don Cato. I would say the English part is maybe the more rock and roller, more Rastafari side. The Je t'aime is his more kind of poetic, romantic side. And the Haitian Creole is probably his most authentic self, all coming through. All of those parts love Anne. We reach this point of rising action where he gets confronted and he has to leave and he's told he can never be there. He meets his brother who actually just speaks in straight up English. It's for real. You're crazy, dog. Like he says that in English. Then we have my favorite scene in the movie, which is Pay Demeron playing accordion by a tree, playing the song Haiti chérie. Most beautiful scene because we have Don Cato. We have this understanding of music. Even though Don Cato doesn't make classic Haitian music like Haiti chérie, we have this connection between them. We have the different generations. We see these two people who care about Tonton Bichat, who care about Anne, people who represent the beauty, the strength, the power, the resilience, the intelligence of Haiti, all filtered through this music and culture. Beautiful, beautiful scene. They have a whole conversation where Pay Demeron is shocked to find out that Don Cato is at school, is learning, and he is able to use his education. He went to Canada, Jamaica, America. And we see this issue that he has. How can he get around Jude? Your father doesn't like me and you have a gangster ready to kill me at any time. The gangster, of course, is Jude. We have this really sad moment where Anne is talking to her best friend, who refers to them as both these two knights. And she just says that you can't possibly be Don Cato because Jude is a real man, a young, successful entrepreneur. You couldn't possibly choose Don Cato instead. And I think this is at the heart of the whole thing, that we have these people around Anne who don't actually have her best interests at heart because they are thinking just in terms of what is a good match, but not thinking what is in her heart. Right? Pretty standard romantic comedy fare. But what happens is you start to see just how terrible Jude is, where as he's working and someone is interviewed, someone's interviewing for a job, he tells her that she can get the job as long as she sits on his lap. And then he ends up kicking her out when she doesn't go. So we get to the climax of the movie where we have a cop who says a cop in this country has all the power. He just shows up. He can do whatever he wants. They are going to frame Don Cato. I want to be there when you arrest the spring-headed guy. They're going to arrest him just on any kind of trumped-up cause they can have. I will say, the funniest part of the movie, in terms of it being a low-budget movie, is there's a chase scene where Don Cato is being chased in the street by this car. And he slows down to make sure the car catches up with him during the chase scene. It's very funny. But anyways, he gets arrested. They're shown on TV. They talk about who is arrested on the TV. It happened while the band, they get really specific. They say that while the band was writing a song called Anne, Don Cato was arrested. A lot of rumors, but you have to trust the cops, only trust facts. A lot of this is about the reasonable suspicion of authority in Haiti. A lot of rumors, but we only trust facts. Why do they arrest him? His mother says it's only about him being a Rasta. And here we have the worst part for Tonton Bicha, for the father. Oh my God, my daughter's name is disrespected on TV. This is the climax because this is where we have the greatest threat to the couple because Don Cato is in jail. And we have the monomaniacal father, the most certain he's ever been that she has to marry Jude and make it okay because he's been disrespected on TV. This is it. This is the low point. And because it's a comedy, the low point means it is the climax. Jude shows up. He tries to get some love. Look at Anne's acting. Look at that face. She's not interested. He comes in and he makes it clear that he orchestrated this and that she might get arrested if she doesn't decide to go with him. I'm here ready to make a real woman out of you. He still thinks he's being right. If you miss him, I can call my friend and have you locked up in the same cell. He is using his power and abusing his power. This movie is almost as much about state corruption as it is about love. And she has the choice. She's presented with this beautiful new car. So what? What does this mean? If she goes with Jude, then she gets to be married to a rich man. She gets her own car. She gets to stay out of jail. She gets to have her whole future made for her forever. It's just she has to be with a philandering, cruel, selfish, small-minded jerk. So what is her choice? The beautiful thing about her, she doesn't even think. She just knows. If you make me hate me as much as I love you, what happened to Don Cato is going to happen to you. Bicha is like just trying to figure out. He's starting to realize that Jude might not be a good person. And he shuts the door right in his face. Cato's in jail. Jude has the car. If the movie ends here, it is a tragedy, but it is not. It is a comedy, which means we have to get to the falling action. We have what is called the Deus Ex Machina, a god from the machine, something that happens at the end of a play that seems unlikely, unfeasible, that comes to save the moment. This happens all the time. In Tartuffe, things get really, really bad, and then all of a sudden someone has this magical like cassette, which is not really a cassette, but it's like this magical paper that proves that Tartuffe is a bad guy. And it just comes out of nowhere. It's one of the greatest plays ever written, but it's like, okay. And we have a whole Deus Ex Machina here where we discover that Jude has been involved in these crimes in the States and in Canada. and he has a nephew who's a cop who's not a corrupt cop. So there's a corrupt cop, but then his nephew is a good cop. It's another Deus Ex Machina. They go to the cartel goes to find Jude, and we see Jude. And I believe the part that's supposed to get the most laughs from anybody in the movie theater is his very, very white girlfriend who shows up here at the end and hugs him and brings him in. And here we have this scene where once again he's just philandering with every woman he can possibly be. After 1 week of training, you're already mine. That's my kind of girl. That's not Anne. That's not the girl. He's constantly doing that. But here we have this falling action, and it's going to lead to the resolution where the police officer that paid Demeron knew is going to discover that they have fake passports, that they've been trafficking drugs, that the kind of bad guy that people thought Don Cato was is the kind of bad guy that Jude really was. And he gets arrested. And as he goes to jail, he passes Don Cato on the way out. And what happens? Bisha says, now you must marry her. Wedding. Society has been saved. The corrupt figure, the corrupt police officer, the corrupt lover, all of those people have been defeated. The monomania of Tonton Bisha has been defeated, and he sees that the happiness of his daughter and his daughter's wisdom and his daughter's knowledge of this man is greater than his, and so he declares a wedding, which means, of course, they are going to have kids and pay taxes. Just what society wants from everybody, to just keep going. That's the happy resolution. So it's a great movie. It's a great movie, and I don't think it needs to be a 17th century French play to be worth watching. I think it's a great movie just on its own. I've watched it like 4 times now. I just had that idea. And I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is kind of a neat way of thinking of this movie, that it's really a lot more classical than it is modern. And it is every Haitian person that I've ever met. Now, I've only met, I don't know, 30 Haitian people in my life, so it's not like I know millions. You know, I do live in America, so there's only so many. But every Haitian person I've ever asked, they say they know this movie, they love this movie. It's just the most popular movie. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, it's great if you know about Haiti and you know about Dessalines, you know about Toussaint, you know about Henri Christophe and all that stuff. But you should also know the fun stuff. And speaking of fun stuff, let's talk about some soup. So on the last day of class, my wife made soup. One second, I'll just talk about this later. And she made this soup called Soupe Joumou. She made it from a recipe by a Haitian chef named Nadège Florimont. Now listen, I am not sponsored by this. I paid $100 for this book. This is my wife's Christmas gift to thank her for making the soup. But she followed this recipe for Haitian squash soup, Soupe Joumou. If you are watching this on January 1st or January 2nd, and you know anybody who is Haitian, I guarantee you they are eating this soup today. It is the soup of January 1st. Now you might be wondering, why? What does it mean? What is Soupe Joumou? Well, Joumou was like a word for... Wait. Sorry, I'm not sharing. So why is it called Soupe Joumou? Well, Joumou is a word for pumpkin, but it doesn't really mean pumpkins. It means squash. This is the food and vegetables that were available to the people who were enslaved and allowed to work on their own... Just one second. The Code Noir by Colbert and Louis XIV said that slave owners had to provide food for the enslaved people. Instead of doing that, they allowed the enslaved people to work on their own plots, which then got them to be agricultural on their own, which then meant after slavery was over, they wanted to keep working on small plots instead of big plantations, which created a lot of the economic difficulty and the tension between the people in power and the people in the countryside who just wanted to make food for themselves. The kinds of food they could make, squash, this kind of squash was primary among it, a kind of winter squash. It is eaten on January 1st to celebrate independence. They eat it for breakfast, they eat it for lunch, they eat it for dinner, and on the next day for Ancestry Day. If you don't remember this class, when we talked about Jean-Jacques Dessalines on January 1st, 1804, that was when he declared Haiti as existing. No longer would it be Saint-Domingue, and it's where he declared that Haiti was its own country. Going all the way back to 1804, Haiti has been an independent nation since then. This is their Independence Day. And this is how they celebrate it, with independent soup, Soupe Joumou. So my wife made this for my students. Eating was not required for class credit. I wanted to share with you the recipe, because it is absolutely crazy. Look at this recipe. 28 ingredients. Scallions, parsley, green pepper, red pepper, yellow onion, thyme, canola oil, onion powder, black pepper, cayenne pepper, cloves, so many cloves, beef stew meat, white vinegar, lime, olive oil, seasoned salt, fresh lime juice, butternut squash. She had to actually make the meat beforehand, the beef stew meat, like she did, she was like curing that beforehand, and all the butter and everything chopped, 28 ingredients, 4 hours of active prep, 12 hours of meat seasoning, and then finally 2 hours of active cooking. So yeah. My wife loves cookbooks. This was the most expensive cookbook I've ever purchased, but I'm like, yeah, but it's all going to this great Haitian chef who's like made it her life's work to make sure that people know and appreciate Haitian cuisine. So you better bet we're going to be eating more food out of this. It's actually kind of a gift to myself. So here's just some scenes. That's what it looked like when we got back from Wegmans. some of the ingredients. There's the cut of meat. We did have oxtail, but we did not share the oxtail with my students because I wanted to eat all the oxtail, and I couldn't bear the idea of my students not liking it that much. Lots of lime juice. That's what I did. I squeezed the limes. So many peppers. You have to go in to make what's called the épice, which is like the different kinds of spices. There's the kind of vinegar over there for the meat. There it is boiling. There's the oxtail together, all into the soup. And there it is, all being mixed in together. So that was the way that I ended the class. I had 2 students who were of Haitian origin, whose, I believe, parents moved here from Haiti. And it was great because one of them said, my dad owns a bakery in New Jersey, and this is just as good as anything he makes. And she came up and had seconds. The other one was sitting in the back, and she was like, it's pretty good. No, it's really good for a non-Haitian. Like, she was not going to lie. She was not going to say it's the best thing ever, because that's the truth about Soupe Joumou. It's different in every region. Every different part of the country has a different kind of Soupe Joumou. So for that first student, this was exactly the right flavor. For the student in the back, it was not quite the right flavor, Like I could have 100 Haitian students in the class all eating the soup, and depending on where their family came from, they would all have a different opinion of how authentic or how good the soup was. So if you've never had a chance to make Soupe Joumou, you really should. It's an amazing soup. It's one of those foods where when you eat them, you are like literally eating culture. Like you are literally eating hundreds of years of perseverance and joy and work and love and family. Like it's this amazing, almost like transubstantiation or something. It's that level of spirituality in a food. And how often do you get to do that? All right. Well, I'm going to go help my wife make up morusca salata, which is what you eat in Serbia on New Year's Eve. So, bonne année to everyone watching. Thank you for watching this class. This has been really amazing. I've never expected to have this many people care about what I would have to say about anything. So, I really appreciate you watching. And till next time, there's the camera.